Hello everybody, Tartan Rooster here. I hope you're doing well. Welcome back to the channel, and today I wanted to spend a little bit of time discussing the game modes in Battlefield 6 Open Beta. And I am recording this in between beta tests, so do bear that in mind. Some things may have changed and updated since the first one when I am recording this. Now, I did spend the vast majority of time playing the closed weapon conquest mode, but I did also take the time to check out Breakthrough and Domination, which were available in the first beta test. We've still got a King of the Hill mode that we'll be able to check out in the next beta test as well, and I always think it is worth time talking about the variety of game modes with Battlefield. We have had some really incredible game modes in the past, like Operations in Battlefield 1, Breakthrough in Battlefield 5 and Rush from Battlefield Bad Company. We had quite a lot of other modes on offer out with the standard Conquest package. I have really enjoyed closed weapon conquest, and I do think this would be the best recipe for Battlefield 6 to succeed over the open weapon conquest mode that we could also play in the beta. I will be interested to see if Battlefield decides which route they're going to go down, or whether they're going to offer both at launch, which I feel like might be a little bit of a risky gamble, and the community has been very vocal about what it wants, and what it wants, for the most part from what I've seen, is the same as me: closed weapon conquest, where weapons are tied to classes. A lot of my videos have featured the closed weapon conquest, so if you do want to see some gameplay from that, there's plenty for you to have a little look at. And overall, I felt that that mode played fairly well on the maps we had. The teams that learned to rotate around objectives and flank won most often, and that is what you would expect from a conquest game. And the teams that could control those areas for longer obviously had a more fighting chance at either a comeback or just winning outright. There is a slight exception to the way the maps played in Conquest, and that is Liberation Peak, which often felt very bogged down in the mid-game. Often a team would keep C and use that to snipe everything in the map, and it could be very difficult to take them out of that point. I quite like flanking and being sneaky around the E and F point if I started on the A and B side, and it does feel overall that the map maybe needs a little bit of work, but I like the kinetic and chaotic nature of the more infantry focused maps that we do have, and I am hoping that there will be bigger maps in launch. It has been teased or mentioned that the maps that we've gotten so far are some of the smaller ones in the game, and there are some very massive Battlefield experiences to come out of the bigger maps that we haven't had the chance to play with yet. Breakthrough felt very challenging, and admittedly I didn't spend a huge amount of time playing it as a result of that, but in the games that I did play, I didn't see a single game where the attackers won or absolutely destroyed the defenders, and this was over the course of several hours that I played on this mode on this map. And I wanted to talk a bit about what was going on with this mode in the time that I played it, and some possible routes for improvement and things that I could maybe see changing. If you're enjoying the discussion today, do give me a like. That lets me know that I'm making content that you are enjoying. Firstly, let's start with Liberation Peak in general on Breakthrough. I found it was rare that the attackers actually got past the first objective. I think there were a few things that contributed to that. Firstly, there was only one flag to begin with rather than two. This means that for the attackers, often the attacking team starts switching to snipers, and less people are actually pushing the objective as the round goes on, and that means the pushes die off very quickly. The only time I ever saw a team get past this first objective was when the tank and infantry worked together using smoke and actually pushed the objective and maintained that push for a large amount of time. This eventually overrun a lot of the defenders. Inherently, Liberation Peak does mean that there are more snipers in general, as it's one of the more open maps in the beta, and people rightfully want to try out the recon class. So it is possible that what we're seeing is an artificial inflation of snipers or something like that, that means that when the game actually launches and people have had time to play absolutely everything, then there might be more of a spread in classes, so maybe those pushes will happen, we don't know. But just taking my opinions based on the beta, I think there are some things that maybe need to change with. The other issue was the lack of any kind of fast recon vehicle like Jeeps or Humvees or even quad bikes. If there were faster transport vehicles, then the attackers could try to tactically deploy squads on flanking routes and attempt to take the attackers by surprise using speed. That could also solve some of the issues that we have been seeing with this mode and map. I'm always of the opinion that Breakthrough should start with the easiest to capture points and move into more difficult areas of the map, and I feel the layout for Liberation Peak and the one vehicle that the attackers get, aren't really designed with that in mind. One of the possible solutions is that maybe Breakthrough should start at the other end of the map at the F areas in Conquest. There would be a slight incline and you still would be fighting uphill, but there's a little bit less view for the defenders to sit and snipe from across the map where they are untouchable and your team has to turn into snipers. You'd still have to employ smart tactics like using your tank effectively and using smokes to push infantry up and then maybe spawn beacons to keep that push alive, but perhaps there is a slight chance that you would survive a little bit longer and be able to push in a little bit more aggressively. On Cairo, however, I think I did see an attacking team win a few times. I didn't think the attackers were strong enough in a lot of cases, and again it could come back down to not having transport vehicles on the map. The only thing that the attackers get is one singular tank, which is useful, but with the amount of RPGs that can be coming at it, it might not last very long, and where you use that tank was incredibly important, and I think it would be better if it was supported with transport vehicles carrying troops to the front line faster. I did enjoy Cairo as a whole, both playing as attackers and defenders. And I'm not sure if, in general, for Breakthrough, DICE perhaps need to have a look at ticket count. I feel like the attackers didn't quite have enough tickets for a lot of the games that I played. I felt like I could have kept fighting them back, or I could have kept the push alive more as an attacker if there were some slightly higher tickets, or maybe a higher ticket reward for actually capturing a sector would maybe be interesting to see. I'd also like to note that Breakthrough had entirely open classes, which completely changes the flow of battle in my opinion. This meant that for the defenders they could have, say, a sniper rifle and an RPG, or an assault rifle and a shotgun, etc, and it made things a little bit easier for them to completely spam things basically at defenders, rockets, sniper rifles, LMGs, and still have all their gadgets and staying alive and all that stuff. I think closed weapon Breakthrough would have been an interesting game mode to have, and to see if that made any difference into the flow of battle. I think Breakthrough, it's hit and miss for me at the moment. I think it could be improved. I like Breakthrough as a mode in general, especially in Battlefield 5. I had a really good time with it in that, but there were some maps where things bogged down and didn't quite work. Again, that could be that trying to get every mode to work on every map is a little bit difficult. From Breakthrough, I want to talk a little bit about Domination. Domination, I think, needs the most work out of all the game modes. Domination did not feel great to me. Now, there are a crowd of gamers that play a certain other first-person shooter that might enjoy the kind of breakneck speed in which you're sliding around a map and shooting at people. Now, that's fine in something like Team Deathmatch to me, but in Domination, there is still the idea of tactics, strategy, and how you are moving around the map. One of the problems with Domination is that when you're dead, so when you've either skipped your revive or your timer's run out, you respawn instantly. There isn't a few seconds where you can look at the map from the death screen, knowing you're not going to get shot at. Just have a little look, have an assess of the situation, think about where you're going to go with your next life, think about where your squad could go, see what the teams are doing in general. And I actually think that had a really big impact on the way that that game mode flowed. People were just running around. You were spawning instantly somewhere, running around. And often you were running for the nearest objective, but maybe that objective had just been taken by the enemy and then you're dead again, and then you don't see the map, so you don't know what's going on, and then you have to go again. There is always this mentality amongst first-person shooters that Battlefield is versus Call of Duty and vice versa, and I actually think this is not a good mindset. I think they are two separate games. They do two things very, very well. Call of Duty does 6v6, smaller maps, mad gameplay, fast clips. You get content out of it very, very, very quickly, and it's something that they do very well. Battlefield for me has always been about being more measured and thoughtful in what you're doing in your moment-to-moment gameplay. You're taking the time to think about it in Conquest. You take a flag, you can take a moment to distribute supplies to your squad, to your team, you can have a second to reload, you can look at the map, right, where we're going to go next. The squad leader sets an order and off you go. You get a little bit of time to actually stop and breathe and think. I don't think that Domination is particularly a Battlefield mode in general. The way it flowed in the likes of Battlefield 4 and 1 matched the flow of combat in Conquest with a good respawn timer that gave you time to assess what was going on and move as a result. I just think this is all wrong for Battlefield at the moment. It doesn't have that sense of squads working together, especially on smaller maps, in a smaller mode, in real close quarters. It doesn't always feel great. Overall, I am looking forward to experiencing more unique game modes that highlight teamwork, squad play and strategy, and I will always dip my toes in all modes to check them out. I'll be looking to see the King of the Hill mode when it's added and how that plays out, and I'll probably do another video on that. This could be a really good tug-of-war-esque mode where people are very scrappy fighting for these objectives, single objectives, and trying to hold them. Or it could become a camp fest where, again, much like Breakthrough, snipers are king and they'll just surround the capture areas and nobody will actually try to capture. I hope that's not the case. I certainly will be running full speed into hell to try and actually get King of the Hill points. I love King of the Hill in Halo, so I'm really curious as to how it's going to play out on a larger scale. And I'm also not sure of player count. Hopefully on the smaller side, a couple of squads maybe would be great to see as well. Well, that's about it for me today. I don't want this video to go on for too long, but let me know what your thoughts are on the game modes that we've experienced so far in the comments below. And if you've enjoyed the video, please do drop me a like and subscribe if you want to see more from me. I will be posting more Battlefield 6 content leading up to release, and hopefully you guys will enjoy that as much as I've been enjoying playing the game. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.